Our speaker this morning is Mr. Mortenson. Mr. Mortenson is a senior master teacher of English. He is the happy 30-plus year roommate of Mrs. Mortenson and the proud father of Anders and Annalise. This is his 13th year at the Hill and the only chapel talk he has given. Mr. Mortenson.
Before we begin, with no seated lunch and announcements today, I was asked to give a quick plug for the student band concert, which I believe is tomorrow night. Is that true? Look out for time and location based on weather. As you will hear in a moment, my talk concerns itself with you and your stories. And while it has nothing to do directly with Mrs. Allen, I'd be remiss if I did not take a moment to acknowledge how much she loved your stories. She read hundreds of them in college essays and found such joy in helping you to write the next chapters as you continued your journeys. So may her memory be a blessing. In her room at the prow of the house, where light breaks and the windows are tossed with linden, my daughter is writing a story. Over the years, in the alumni chapel, on screen, at home, and in advisories, in the dining hall, and throughout this year in the CFTA, I find myself in awe of the stories you all have told in these spaces. These are the stories of your lives, and you have written them and continue to write them daily. Zach described how being alone, sometimes lonely, led to one of the biggest revelations and successes he's had. That solitary work, done by choice or necessity, can lead you to a passion when you least expect it. Frankie gave us stories about his mistakes and the power that second chances can have upon the growth those mistakes inspire. MK's story of finding the good in the difficult transformed her Hill experience and taught her that she has never had to be perfect and has never been on stage alone. I pause in the stairwell, hearing from her shut door a commotion of typewriter keys, like a chain hauled over a gunwale. Through the experiences of her 4 years at Hill, Ella showed that the greatest resource we share is time. We ought to embrace it, cherish it, enjoy it, and be present one more day. Jaden told us how multiple changes in perspective tell the story of all the things she gets to do and dream and be. And Mia explained how saying no to others can often be saying yes to ourselves, and how that might be the bravest thing we can do. Young as she is, the stuff of her life is a great cargo, and some of it heavy. I wish her a lucky passage. Mason chronicled his many physical injuries over the years and the support and care he found among his peers and teachers. There are many difficult times, but there are many who are there to help. We all wish you a lucky passage. Andre recounted a mother struggling with cancer, an important college rejection, a successful sibling to try to live up to. Heavy cargo indeed. But trying to live like a cockroach has brought resilience and pride and a unique understanding of life. And Nora explained how a single negative voice in your ear can make you question whether or not you are truly good at something, but that being good at something may not necessarily be your why for doing it. But now it is she who pauses, as if to reject my thought and its easy figure. A stillness greatens in which the whole house seems to be thinking. A stillness like the one Reet described when she was younger and hesitant to disclose her heritage because of the stereotypes she had experienced, but learning over time to value and share her authentic self, not with the people who stereotype, but the ones who value her unique story. Or Araya, whose talk asked us all to pause, and in that stillness, consider what we want our legacy to be. A considerably larger question about our stories than merely the chapter about Hill. And Atticus, whose musings on basketball Fridays and camp counseling asked all of us to think about what we truly value and how we can remember to use our time to enjoy those things while they happen. And then she is at it again, with a bunched clamor of strokes, and again is silent. Noah's story explained an ecosystem he loves and how each of us is a member of our own various ecosystems while being part of a common ecosystem here at Hill. Jonathan recounted his stories where he chose not to take offense but feel pity toward the ignorance of those who displayed various forms of prejudice. At the same time, he explained how the words we use matter. I remember the day's starling, which was trapped in that very room 2 years ago. Anna's story about memories of her father and her first years at Hill showed us how trapped we can become in the room of the future and all that we may miss by forgetting to be present, especially for moments that matter to us the most. Emma told us all about an abiding fear to lift her voice, to speak, to be heard, to be trapped in a room of silence, afraid to be judged, scared to be wrong and of the opinions of others. Amanda recounted stories of struggling with dual identities and the realization she came to and the strength she found in valuing her true and complex self. How we stole in, lifted a sash, and retreated, not to affright it. This is our job. This is what speakers like Reverend Confer Martins and Mrs. Lim, Mr. DeLucia and Mr. Baum, Mr. Yinger and Dr. von Wachenfeld, Reverend Adams, Ms. McConney, and Mrs. Neese have done. What Ms. Hunter and Mrs. Allen have done. Open a window for you. Open a window and hope. And how for a helpless hour, through the crack of the door, we watch the sleek, wild, dark, and iridescent creature batter against the brilliance, drop like a glove to the hard floor or the desktop, and wait then, humped and bloody, for the wits to try it again. Sam reminded us that we each navigate our own business cycles to achieve growth and stability, and that sometimes we require help to do so, and when we do, it doesn't make us inferior or any less of a person. One David told us about repeated attempts to try new things at Hill and wisely reminded us that the experience is more important than the result. Similarly, Terry reflected that the pursuit of results is often far less important than the meaning in the things we do, in the attempts we make and the contributions we can offer, rather than the scores and points we may post. And Holly suggested we forgive ourselves, give ourselves the grace we require to realize we don't need to be perfect. This can be hard, we can fail at that, but we need to keep trying for ourselves and for others. And how our spirits rose when, suddenly sure, it lifted off from a chair back, beating a smooth course for the right window and clearing the sill of the world. As Abby explained at the beginning of the year, at some point, you realize you have to complete the jigsaw puzzle yourself. The pieces are your own. Discovering, as Bell suggested, exactly what whatsoever things are true means to each of you. You cannot be told what it means. You can only be given a path to discover how it means. Or as Anders told us, that every failure can lead to greater effort and eventual success that you can take distinct pride in, that you did this yourself. It is always a matter, my darling, of life or death, as I had forgotten. Another David reminded us of this, explained how we cannot forget, not overlook the struggles our friends and colleagues may have. It can, as he described, truly be a matter of life or death. We need to be present and willing to listen to each other's stories. The poet Courtney Pepperell writes, "You can't skip chapters. That's not how life works. You have to read or write every line, meet every character. You won't enjoy all of it. Hell, some chapters will make you cry for weeks. You will read or write things you don't want to read or write. You will have moments when you don't want the pages to end, but you have to keep going. Stories keep the world revolving. Live yours. Don't miss out." In similar fashion, in her poem, Sometimes, Mary Oliver gives us instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. I wish what I wished you before, but harder. I wish you more moments when you don't want the pages to end. I wish you the courage to keep going. I wish you the strength to keep writing your stories so the world can keep revolving. I wish you the confidence to live your story, to not miss out, to pay attention. I wish you the vision to be astonished by your own life and the courage to tell about it. And I wish you the resilience it requires to find the open window and to experience the joy that comes from clearing the sill of the world. I give you Uninterrupted, The Writer by Richard Wilbur. In particular, his final lines. In her room at the prow of the house, where light breaks and the windows are tossed with linden, my daughter is writing a story. I pause in the stairwell, hearing from her shut door a commotion of typewriter keys like a chain hauled over a gunwale. Young as she is, the stuff of her life is a great cargo, and some of it heavy. I wish her a lucky passage. But now it is she who pauses, as if to reject my thought and its easy figure. A stillness greatens in which the whole house seems to be thinking. And then she is at it again with a bunched clamor of strokes, and again is silent. I remember the day's starling, which was trapped in that very room 2 years ago. How we stole in, lifted a sash, and retreated, not to affright it, and how, for a helpless hour, through the crack of the door, we watched the sleek, wild, dark, and iridescent creature batter against the brilliance, drop like a glove to the hard floor or the desktop, and wait then, humped and bloody, for the wits to try it again. And how our spirits rose when suddenly sure it lifted off from a chair back, beating a smooth course for the right window and clearing the sill of the world. It is always a matter, my darling, of life or death, as I had forgotten. I wish what I wished you before, but harder.